So I'm really pleased to welcome Hart Hagen here, who is going to talk to us about soil. Um, Hart has been involved in environmental issues for how many years, Hart?
I would say 8 years now.
8 years now. And he's been doing some wonderful classes that several of us have been involved in. So we really appreciate his wisdom and skill and knowledge. So I'm delighted that he'll be able to share that with us this evening, particularly on, you picked a really interesting topic, the disappearance of water in soil.
Hmm.
Do you have slides you want to share, or do you
I
just,
do. I
okay.
have I
Um,
have potentially 3 slideshows to share if you want me to.
Probably pick one.
Let
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
before we get to the slideshows, let me just kind of off the cuff summarize this issue and why it's
okay.
important.
Yes,
So I've been a climate reporter since 2018. I have a local radio show and I've done 400 episodes of my local radio show reporting on topics that are related to climate. So I got interested in climate in 2018, and it wasn't until 2021 that I read Dirt to Soil by Gabe Brown, and I
Mhm.
also read Cows Save the Planet by Judy Schwartz. And both of those, soil and water, seem to be two different things, but they're really very closely related things. And where was I going with that? So a report came out in a report came out recently that said there's been a massive loss of soil moisture in the last 25 years. And that this report answered a question I had had a long time. I didn't think science was doing a very good job of looking into this question. And the question is, how much water are we losing from the continents annually or otherwise? We are, assuming that, so Mikhail Kravchuk is a hydrologist in Eastern Europe, and he figures prominently in chapter 4 of Judy Schwartz's book, Cows Save the Planet. The title is Return of Lost Water. And then I read the chapter about him, and then I read his book, which is a PDF. And part of that book is he does calculations that said, I forget what his numbers are, but his numbers seem to be back of the envelope. Here's how much we might be losing worldwide. Here's how much fresh water we might be losing, because what it happens is it rains. And then when it rains, three things can happen to that rain. It can either soak into the ground, or it can run off, or it can evaporate. So in any given year, there's a certain amount of salt water that turns into fresh water through rain, and there's a certain amount of fresh water that turns into salt water because it runs back into the oceans, plus some of that fresh water that rains evaporates into the atmosphere. So Mikhail Kravchuk indicated that there's some, many billions of tons of water that it was fresh water, and now it's not fresh water anymore. It's either in the atmosphere, it's water vapor, or it's in the oceans. Well, that's a problem because everything on land requires fresh water. And I felt like the scientists should do two things. One, they should find out how much fresh water is being lost on a regular basis. Find out. And number two, what is the other thing scientists should be? They should be talking about it more. And the third thing, I suppose, is that they should be talking in terms of solutions. They should be gathering the data, defining the problem, and then defining the solutions. And have we started recording yet?
yep.
Okay, that's your job. I should let you do your job, and
No, that's good.
I'll,
Let me tell you, I appreciate that
yeah.
reminder. I can't tell you how I appreciate the reminder.
So you're very welcome. So in the Washington Post, like March 27th of this year, there's a report which I will show you. I have a slideshow that walks through the the article in Washington Post, and then another slideshow that walks through the scientific article that appeared in Science, but they said, you know, here's how much moisture has been lost from the soil. So that is one form of fresh water. It's a very important form of fresh water, and it's excellent data. It's like, finally, scientists are talking about how much fresh water is being lost. So, and when you think about it, everything on land requires fresh water. Fresh water is something like 2 to 2.4% of the total water in the world. Most of it is salt water. Most water in the world is in the oceans. The fresh water in the world includes water vapor in the atmosphere, but more to the point, it includes bodies of fresh water on land, lakes, rivers, streams. It includes groundwater, and it includes moisture that is in the soil. So and so the moisture that's in the soil might be the biggest reservoir of water. It might be a reservoir of water that's bigger than what's in the body, the lakes and rivers. Anyway, it was important that scientists are telling this story in the sense of reporting the facts, but I'm equally disappointed that the scientists that reported these facts did not have an apparent understanding of how water and soil work together. So that's I don't think there's anything else I can say before I get to do we have any comments or questions before I get to my handy dandy slideshows?
Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's actually shocking that they seem to understand the water cycle so little,
Yeah,
and they certainly don't appreciate it. It's like, oh my God, we've lost water. Well, then we've lost water and it's never going to come back. And
yeah,
it's like
right,
not absolutely not true.
right.
We are on a water planet. We've got lots of water here. We just have to learn how to keep it. That's all.
Right. And if I could sum up in 2 words what it takes, or maybe let's say 3 words, what it takes to get that water back into the soil, and that is improve the soil.
Yeah. Soil health.
It's as simple as that. You're going to look at the soil biology, but if you need something measurable, you can measure soil organic matter. Soil organic matter ranges, it could be 0%. Usually in poor soil organic matter is 1 to 2%. In very good soil, it might be 6 to 8%. And it's something that it's not complicated. They've been measuring soil organic matter since back in the 30s, and prior to that, you would think, would they measure soil organic matter? Well, there was a way of doing it. They've been doing it for a long time. In some places, county records have data, have records as to what was the historic soil organic matter in that county. And so it's been happening a long time. It's something that not all farmers know. Uh, not all farmers pay attention to their soil organic matter, but many do. They're called regenerative farmers. So anyway, let me go ahead and
Okay.
pull up the slideshow. I'm going to click out of the 19 windows I have pulled up here. Okay, let's see. WAPO for Washington Post. Let's make sure we're at the top. Let me see how many, this is 12 slides altogether. Now, Earth's soil is drying up. It could be irreversible. So thank you for sentence number 1. I lost all respect for you in sentence number 2. The losses in soil moisture already pose issues for farming, irrigation systems, critical water resources. What else? For humans, but new research shows how the declines are contributing to sea level rise more than previously thought. Okay, there's a link here. And if you subscribe to the Washington Post, you can easily find this article. It's from March 27th of this year. Here's the article as it appears in Science, which is the same day. Abrupt sea level rise and Earth's gradual pole shift reveal permanent hydrological regime changes in the 21st century. Hydrological regime change is a fancy word for saying water cycles and also the water storage capacity of the soil. The losses in soil, this is quoting the article, the losses in soil moisture already pose issues for farming, irrigation system, and critical water resources for humans. So that's they're trying to tell the significance of this. But new research shows how the declines are contributing to sea level rise more than previously thought. Sea level rise is important because we've been told that sea level rise is due to two things: melting glaciers, mainly from Greenland and Antarctica, and also the how the ocean water expands as it gets warmer. And but what we will see is that the loss of soil moisture is a major contributor to sea level rise. In fact, it's a greater contributor than melting glaciers in Greenland. The amount of water stored on lands across Earth's continents has declined at such staggering levels that changes are likely irreversible. So they're making a judgment call. And I'm not a scientist, but I know enough about this particular area of science to know that they are just dead wrong about, well, likely irreversible. Yeah, if you don't
You
do
don't.
anything about it, it's irreversible. If you act like if you sit there like a bump on a log, it's irreversible. Okay, likely irreversible while humans are alive, a study published Thursday found. And I said, oh no, that's like, oh no, Mr. Bill, you know, the worst possible things are happening. Oh no, we're helpless. We can't do anything about this. The losses in soil moisture are a research of the planet's climate conditions and prolonged droughts, a result of the planet's climate conditions and prolonged droughts already pose issues for farming, irrigation systems, and critical water resources for humans, but it also affects sea level rise and Earth's rotation. It affects Earth's rotation because the water makes the land heavier and the loss of water makes the land lighter. Presumably, the Earth is not rotating as much toward the Eurasian landmass as it was before, and therefore there's a 41 centimeters difference in the axis of the Earth.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with the use of aquifers and how much
Okay,
they're depleted.
good. Yeah, thank you. That's another good insight I hadn't realized. Jay Famigletti, co-author of the study published in Science, what we found, he says the following, what we found was this unprecedented decrease in soil moisture in the early part of the 21st century, which took us by surprise. The team found from 1979 to 2016, the biggest soil moisture losses occurred between 2000 and 2002, losing around 1,614 gigatons of water from land. They don't say, and we don't know, why there was an especially high loss between 2000 and 2002. So that part just will remain a mystery. The important thing to me is that if you average it out over time, you've got about 125 to 150 gigatons per year. A gigaton is a billion tons. A ton of water is a cubic meter of water. A cubic meter is 1,000 liters. Each liter is a kilogram. So anyway, but 1,614 gigatons is a lot by any standards. And if you add to this the water that was lost between 2003 and 2016, you get a total of about 2,623 gigatons, which is a lot, but at least we know how much it is. We know that any significant net loss of water from land is bad for life on land. And this is one of those things that tell me why. this is not a bigger issue than carbon dioxide. You can say carbon dioxide is a big issue if you want to, and I don't quarrel with that, but put things in perspective. And if we're talking about something, if we're talking about massive losses of water from the soil, then uh, that spells death. It might not be a sudden death, but it's gradual death for our ecosystems. And can we talk? And so the thing about this story is that it came and went. Appears once in the Washington Post. If it appeared in any other major publication, I'm not aware of it. Maybe it did, but it's not being talked about.
Yeah.
And anyway, a substantial conversation we could have, and I don't pretend to have the answers on this, but a substantial conversation we could have is what is the relative importance of these different major environmental issues. Soil moisture loss is one of them. Desertification is one of them. Carbon dioxide induced global warming is one of them. The loss of wildlife is one of them. The 73% loss of wildlife in the last 50 years, according to the World Wildlife Fund. The 70 to 90% loss of insect populations, depending on which study you're going on. All of these are important issues. We are led to believe, and I have a course coming up in 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 October called Wildlife and Climate. And part of the purpose of the course is to discuss the relative importance and of these things, the relative priorities they should represent, and how are these things related to one another. For example, if we're losing soil moisture, and scientists have told us that we're losing soil moisture at the rate of hundreds of gigatons per year, and so if that's happening, then that also represents a loss of carbon because you can't lose water from the soil without also losing carbon. The reverse is also true. You can't deplete the soils of carbon without losing water. Water and carbon flow in the same direction. So anyway, I need to take a breath. I need to take a sip of water while you all ponder on any of that. Anyway, comments, questions, observations, I welcome your thoughts.
Well, I think for me anyway, I'd like to get your thoughts on what we can do about this
Oh,
because
yeah.
it doesn't seem to me that it's rocket science. It doesn't seem to me that it is an impossible thing to reverse, but I do think we need to be conscious about it. But what are your thoughts on?
Okay, I have a whole slideshow on what we can do, but why don't I go to the slideshow
Okay.
that and this slideshow represents what these scientists and reporters apparently did not understand. If they understand this at all, they did not indicate any understanding whatsoever of what's in healthy soil, how to make healthy soil, or what are all the benefits of healthy soil. In fact, what they did say indicated that they did not understand any of this, both the reporters and the scientists that were involved. So let me go to my handy dandy slide presentation on soil health.
Hart,
And
I have a quick question for you.
no, okay.
It's just that number you shared, the average annual loss of water.
Mhm.
Can you tell me? Can you just repeat that number again?
Okay, let me give you the total number and the number of years. Now, this study showed, let me stop the share. And this study showed that between 2000 and 2002, and I have specific numbers about it, between 2000, let's just say this, between 2000 and 2016, there was a 2,623 gigaton loss of soil moisture, according to their computations. So if you just take 17 years, 2000 to 2016, and divide it, or you take 2,623 divided by 17, that gives you the average number of gigatons lost per year. And I got something like 154, I think.
It's a lot of water.
Yeah, it's a lot of water.
So those values are in that article.
Yes, they have two different values. They say between 2000 and 2002, there are 1,513, I think, gigatons
Yeah.
lost in that period. And then between 2003 and 2015 or 16, there is an additional thousand and something. So it adds up to 2,623. It's fabulous data because I mean it's bad news, but it's data that we needed to have. I've been on these, telling my own personal little drama here, but I've been on these Google groups that have scientists on them, and I have asked people, how much water are we losing? I used to say, how much water are we losing from the continents? How much water are we losing from the land? And I had very little to go on before this article came out. And now it's like, okay, this is probably not the end of the story, but it's our job. It's a valuable role we can play. It's not our job to come to scientists with a truckload of facts and say, this is the scientific theory that's right. It is our job. It's not our job to have all the answers. It is our job to ask the right questions and sometimes to shift the burden of proof, because they have to explain to us, like, if you agree with me that this is a very important and momentous finding, then they should explain. We should have a conversation, scientists and non-scientists, scientists and eaters and breathers and livers, and people that want to live on this planet deserve to look scientists in the eye and say, what is your job here? And can we talk about the relative importance of CO2 versus the loss of fresh water versus the rapid extinction of species? And we can change the public conversation. That's within our power to change the public conversation. And the reason the public conversation is so shallow and unproductive is because there are not enough of us talking about these things. Well,
And I see the same kind of gaslighting in this conversation that I do in forestry. So because water's disappearing, it must be because the trees are evaporating it off the planet.
So blame the trees.
They'll blame the trees. Yes.
It's,
Yes, yes. And so it just shows how little they really do understand. It's just a strange way of thinking.
Yeah.
That's why, you cut trees down in the forest, because if you do that, they don't have the fuel for fire and they won't burn, which actually is not scientifically true, but it's a story we're told. And it's the same kind of gaslighting, because it assumes that people who are listening to that do not understand how nature works. And for the most part, they're right. That doesn't mean that their logic is right, but their assumption that people don't understand it is correct.
Let's say extreme skepticism is appropriate. There's no end to, I have a very low estimation of the integrity of media generally, politicians generally, and even a lot of that, and corporate America generally. And it doesn't do any good to say that as just a blanket statement. It does some good to show, not tell. It does. And so if we show, not tell, then the way to do that is to talk about simple things that make sense, things that resonate with our personal experience, with our common sense, We have spent our lives, even people who live in the city have some experience with soil and water and trees and what have you. And we have so much to say that resonates with people's common sense. It resonates. It is consistent with basic physics and basic biology. Like,
And basic
hey, things need
experience.
water.
Yeah, yeah, basic experience. We know that's true.
Right.
And we know that when things are wet, they're cooler. We
Hmm.
know that too.
Right.
Those are two pieces of information that our own lived experience will validate no
Hmm.
matter what else happens.
Let's go to. So this is I'm giving you an overview of this slideshow. We're going to we're talking about nutrients, but the like healthy soil. What or why? What are the benefits of healthy soil? What is in healthy soil, and how to make healthy soil? And all these are three topics that tend to go together. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'll go ahead and view slideshow, starting with the beginning. Healthy soil. Why? Like, what are the benefits? Why? What are all the reasons we should want healthy soil? What is in healthy soil? But and how to make it. So let's go on. Why healthy soil? What are the benefits of healthy soil? Only healthy soil can deliver these nutrients to the plant and consistently and efficiently. And I really shouldn't start that. Like, what are the benefits of healthy soil? Healthy soil prevents flooding, prevents drought, it prevents erosion, it grows healthy food. It has a certain regulating and moderating impact on our climate. Uh, so those are some of the benefits of healthy soil, but awkwardly, I'm starting with nutrition. Only healthy soil can deliver these nutrients to the plant consistently and efficiently. So this is from Regenerative Soil by Matt Powers. These are 9 macronutrients and 11 micronutrients that are essential to plants and animals, including humans. And only healthy soil can deliver these things consistently or efficiently. You can get nitrogen in fertilizers, but that's inefficient. Phosphorus and potassium you can get in fertilizers, but that's inefficient. The only thing that can deliver all of these nutrients to the plants in adequate quantities is healthy soil. And the name of the game in gardening, in farming, in my opinion, in forestry, even though it's rarely talked about in forestry. But the name of the game in climate studies should be healthy soil. If we take care of our soil, everything else will take care of itself. So this is so only healthy soil. This is healthy soil, and only healthy soil can deliver these nutrients to the plants. These nutrients get delivered to the roots of the plant when we have this is bacteria. This is Matt Powers' diagram. There are 5 categories of microscopic things that are important to the soil food web. This is the soil food web. It shows the plant roots over here. It shows organic matter over here. And it shows the whole community of living organisms that have an effect on the soil and that live in soil and in and around healthy soil. But the 5 categories of microscopic things are, drum roll, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and microarthropods. These arrows all represent a flow of energy and nutrients going from one place to another. So if this nematode eats, where's that arrow go? If this nematode is eating these plant roots, then the energy and nutrients is flowing from the plant roots to the to the nematode. I picked the most difficult arrow in this whole thing. But protozoa, that includes amoeba, paramecium, flagellates. Protozoa eat bacteria, so the energy and the nutrients are flowing from the bacteria to the protozoa. The soil food web, like any food web, any ecosystem is a flow of nutrients and a flow of energy. It's also a flow of water from place to place. And so,
We had a webinar last week, and Faith called it the poop loop.
yeah, right. That's Elaine
Guys,
Ingham calls it the poop
that's how
loop,
the
right?
nutrients flow.
Right. They're eating each other's poop and each other's
Yeah.
carcasses and
Yep.
what have you. They're burrowing holes
Creating structure.
creating pathways for themselves and others. They're like the microarthropods or these springtails and thrips and things that are kind of microscopic insects or other arthropods, and they shred things because they have that exoskeleton like they're tiny lobsters, so they can shred things with their claws or with their teeth, and they leave behind a waste product. Once they eat what they want, they leave behind debris, which then the fungi and the bacteria get to eat. So it's very and if you're a farmer and you know what you're doing and you're a regenerative farmer, you will spend a lifetime improving your soil. That's your job, to improve the soil. All else is details. And so, but we're trying to talk about what is in healthy soil, why improve health. Only healthy soil can hold on to rainfall. That's another reason to work for healthy soil. 1% of organic matter in the top 6 inches of soil would hold approximately 27,000 gallons of water per acre. If you improve your soil organic matter by 4% over the course of time, you have increased the water holding capacity of your land by 27,000 gallons per acre. By 100,000 gallons per acre if you improve the soil organic matter by 4%. What can you not do with 100,000 gallons of additional water per acre? This is what the scientists who reported on
Yeah.
the study showed no indication that they had any understanding of this. This is not, at some levels, it is very complex for sure, but the basic concepts and principles are simple and they should be taught at the earliest ages in school.
Yep.
Another benefit of healthy soil is that only healthy soil can move plants through all 4 stages of plant health. So if you work on healthy soil, just going to touch on this briefly, but plants in healthy soil can go through all 4 of these stages: complete photosynthesis, complete protein synthesis, increased lipid synthesis, and increased synthesis of plant secondary metabolites, also known as phytochemicals. They include things like nicotine and cyanide and tannins. They're important there are just countless thousands of chemicals that have to do with the functioning of the plant, the defense of the plant, and they give plants a unique aroma, a unique flavor. And according to John Kemp, one of the smartest people in regenerative agriculture, healthy plants can become completely resistant to diseases and insects. Isn't this what we want? We want healthy plants that are resistant to diseases and insects so that we can have healthy soil we want productive farming uh, without added chemicals, and we want farming that holds on to the water so that the landscape holds the water and with all the benefits that it provides. I'm just a half or a third of the way through this presentation on what is in healthy soil, how to make healthy soil, and why we all want healthy soil. And this is what, if scientists aren't going to do this work, then it's up to us. And I do a coaching program. Some of you might be aware of this. And my mission is if you have a message that is in any way tangentially related to what we're talking about here, then I am here to help you magnify your message, find your audience, decide what you're calling your audience to do, etc. But it's up to us. We have to be the media. The media is asleep at the wheel. They're not doing their job. It's at many levels they don't want to do their job. At many levels, the media is they're just a PR arm of corporate America or world corporations. Their job is not to deliver the news. Their job is to run interference for wealthy corporations, so the wealthy corporations can get away with murder. Not even kidding, get away with the murder of people on the planet. That's their job. And they tell compelling stories. You always have to look at what is the narrative being told. And if you look at the narrative being told, they're trying to divide us up, pit us against one another, keep us uninformed. It's like this T-shirt that
I
I
want to go
saw.
back to healthy soil though.
Okay.
Because
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so
As
you
you
haven't
will.
you haven't
Yeah.
talked
We
about
should go back to that.
you haven't talked about compost at all.
Okay. Compost. Yeah, that's a good. I have limited experience with compost, and I'm not here to say I have a limited experience with compost. I have theoretical knowledge of compost. I would like for everybody everywhere to do some version of Johnson Sue, the static compost where you take wood chips and leaves and put them in a thing that's aerated and everything's getting air without you having to turn it, and you add water occasionally. At some point you add worms, and that's Johnson Sue compost in theory. What I have is something that I think mimics Johnson Sue compost, which is I have in some places I have a foot of wood chips. In some places I have a 4-foot pile of wood. I have more wood chips than should be allowed by law. And what my wood chips represent to me is a process where I end up with fungal dominant compost.
Yeah, you would with
Because fungal dominant is where you start with like a lot of woody material and leaves it stays kind of wet. And I think what I have is fungus food. And I think that's my kind of large scale method of mimicking the Johnson Sue process.
what it
But
sounds like
fungal
to
dominant is
me.
consistent fungal dominant is significant because every other and there's good compost that's not fungal dominant,
Right.
but most types of compost are bacterial dominant, which means you're in the lower end of the successional process. It's good for vegetables and things, but anything that I grow wildflowers, and most of those are perennials, not all. Some of them are annuals, and so I have perennial wildflowers, and and I'm interested in the fungal dominant system. I'm interested in improving my soil. And I mean, my garden is a whole other slideshow. I didn't bring that. I didn't bring that slideshow with me. I could find
Well,
it,
it
but
sounds like what you're doing really is mimicking what happens in a forest, because a forest
yeah,
doesn't do
I think
compost
so.
piles
I
either.
think so.
They pretty much it's wood
Yeah,
chips and
and I'm
plant debris.
conscious of the fact that wood chips take a lot of fossil fuels. I'm doing something that um, will not be readily available if we ever run out of fossil fuels. So what the wood chips take a lot of fossil fuel. They kill a lot of trees. I can't prevent people from killing trees, but I can have them bring the wood chips to my location, and I can do good things with them. Just today, I was I spent a half hour, usually take about a half hour a day. I transported some wood chips over to part of my garden that happens to have common evening primrose, and I'm just building up the bank of wood chips because to me that's going to capture rainfall. It's going to be a bank of soil moisture. And if you have like a pile of wood chips this high, maybe you have a plant here, and maybe a plant over there. You put wood chips in between it, and it's not messing with you're not burying your plants in wood chips because that would be bad for them. You know, you want the base of the plant to be level with the soil. You don't want the wood chips to be piled up next to the plant. But if you have a pile of wood chips near the plant, then it captures the rainfall. It shares its moisture with those plants. And I'm like, that's what I'm about. That's my thing. That's my deal. That's how I roll.
One thing you haven't talked about, and so I'm just curious whether,
I mean, there's something I haven't talked about yet.
yes, what are your thoughts on um, helping the land hold water? I have a beaver button on
Hmm.
tonight because beavers are really a big thing with me.
Yeah,
They are how about 20% of the United States was
yeah.
mostly wetland because of beaver activity.
Mhm.
And now that we don't have any beavers, or very few, and we've paved over all the wetlands because it was flat and we could build on it, we're finding that there's still water and the water still wants to be somewhere, but it doesn't have any place to be. And I know Eileen Geis,
Erica,
in her book, Water Always Wins, really talks about this and how cities are addressing this issue. So I wonder if you had thoughts on um, creating and regenerating the land's capacity to hold water in this way, because it's a little different than just the soil health. The soil health is has to be there for this to
mhm,
really be useful, but it's another stage or step
mhm.
in
Right.
that process.
So let's start with um, honest, our goal, the world that most of us here, that all of us here want, is a world where we capture a whole lot of water as much as possible and hold it onto the land. We want everybody everywhere, ideally, starting with a few people, but we want everybody everywhere to value water and to value having land that has the capacity to hold water. And it varies from place to place. It makes a big difference whether you're in a kind of a cramped urban space or whether you have wide open spaces in, the countryside. And but broadly speaking, I have like four categories of things that tend to hold water in the landscape, and we need to be conscious of all those things and utilize whatever we can, where we can, within the resources that we have. And the four things are plants, soil, animals, and earthworks. The almost in that order, because earthworks are kind of the more expensive thing that you would do, but not to minimize people who do earthworks, but so wherever you are, like if I showed my place, I have I'm trying to crowd as many plants as I can into my space. It's because that's going to capture the most rainfall and it's going to improve the soil. And then when you improve the soil, that's going to hold a lot of water. The third thing is animals. Whether you can name animals that are especially good uh, at engineering the landscape in such a way that it holds more water. And it would be great if we had, there used to be like 200 million to 350 million beavers in North America. We're now down to somewhere between 10 or 15 million. And it would be great if we brought the beavers back. Beavers are not going to be on an endangered species list, but they have been extirpated from, 95% of their original range or more, and they're not performing their ecological function. So beavers, prairie dogs, I read an article or glanced at an article today about muskrats, are types of engineers and the earthworms, cattle, well managed, like grazing animals, can all be animals that tend to engineer the landscape so as to capture water. Now, when it comes to earthworks, we need to design for hydration, not drainage. The other day in my class, Brock Dolman said that are we going to do drainage? We're in the drain age. We need to be in the retain age. We do drainage instead of retainage. We need to retain water. We need to not treat water as if it's a nuisance. We treat water as if it's a nuisance. It's like, well, the water is flooding on my property, so or in my city, so we're gonna get rid of this water as quickly as we can. One person's drainage is another person's flood. We're sending the flood downstream. And so anyway, we need to design for drainage. For hydration, and we need to design our landscapes to retain water. That's the whole profession of civil engineering. Ricardo Aguirre is, I think maybe you know him. He's, he's one of the few civil engineers who understands this, that flooding is runoff. And if we reduce runoff, we reduce flooding. Why don't we treat that water as a resource and keep it where it is? You don't want to stop it, but you do want to slow it down. And if you have a little check dam or a little pond or something to hold the water. Uh, Detention basins are a well-intentioned idea that are rarely implemented with any degree of efficacy. So anyway,
Thank you
does
for
that
that.
answer your question?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. What do you think that we can do in our own little lives to address this issue? Is there anything? Or is it we gotta leave
Yeah.
it to experts?
Who are these experts? um, well, we have to start where we are and do what we can. Everybody needs to do what's important to them. Hopefully you get to do something that's fun, because if it's not fun, you won't do it. I have 2/8 of an acre in urban Louisville. I live on an eighth of an acre, and I have an eighth of an acre vacant lot. And I dream there's 3 vacant lots across the street. I would like to own or lease one of them in the next year or so. I'm envisioning an empire of vacant lots that feed the pollinators and improve the soil and get some biomass going. And so that's my thing. And there's a lot you can do on your own land, even if it's only, let's say you live on a third of an acre, or I live on an eighth of an acre. If I work to if I work to establish a native plant community that's good for the pollinators and improves the soil and holds the rainfall, then yeah, and the pollinators, not just pollinators, but insect visitors. So June bugs today were just buzzing in my little thing. My vacant lot was nothing to speak of a year and 2 months ago, and then I got it and started improving it. I went there went over there twice the other day, and I saw a hummingbird in that area twice, and the hummingbird is not there because I'm putting sugar water in anything. It's there drinking nectar from the flowers. And anyway, so I'm doing what I can and I'm having fun doing it. But here's what I was getting at. If I understand good soil because I work with it, then for one thing, I can talk about it so I can have my own little crusade. But what I was going to say is that I can know the importance of buying my food from farmers that are treating their soil well. And I can talk to my neighbors about that if I want to. I'm not much with, these one-to-one interpersonal conversations, because, you have to be in a forum like this before people know what you're talking about. But I, I'm I'm a board member of my local native plant group, Wild Ones Louisville. Wild Ones is a national organization. We have a chapter, and we have several garden tours per year. We're forming a community. We have typically 20 people at our garden tours, and we're just kind of, comparing notes and having fun and seeing what can be done. But, you know, I guess, this is my passion. So I have a pretty well-formed idea of what I want to do, and I'm kind of spending time pursuing my passion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that just the general principle, though, is start where you are, do what you love, try to improve your own land if you have any. And if you don't have any, borrow some. Go do some gardening offer to maintain somebody else's pollinator garden, and contact me if you want to know how to get started, because there's the hard way and there's the easy way. And well, not like super easy. I don't know how to set it and forget it, but I do know a way that gets results and is not a lot of thankless labor. You know, for one thing, you got to start with tons of wood chips from chipdrop.com. I don't know any other way to do it. Uh, the only alternative is to have a landscape that's dry and has to be watered. For one thing, I do very little watering. When I plant something, it gets watered 2 to 3 times and then it's on its own. I'm not constantly watering my landscape. So that saves labor, it saves water, it's more sustainable. And I'm not telling people don't use a hose or don't irrigate. I'm saying, insofar as I'm trying to mimic a native landscape, then I want it to depend on rainfall, and it can be done.
Right. Right. They've kind of evolved to do that, actually.
Right. Exactly. Even though rain now is getting more erratic,
Right.
but we have resources to address these things. We spend our resources on, Joel Salatin says, Joel Salatin, famous regenerative farmer in Virginia, says that the tragedy of human experience is not that we are lazy, but that we are busy doing the wrong things. Joel Salatin wrote a great book called Folks, This Ain't Normal. The fossil fuel age is not normal. What we
Right.
do with fossil fuels is not normal. The main problem, in my opinion, with fossil fuels is not the emissions, it's what we do with them, including deforestation, war, endless construction. Anthropogenic mass is the amount of the total weight of things that humans have made. It is now officially equal to all the biomass on the world. So the total mass of all human-made things is equal to the total mass of all living things. It's set to double and redouble this century. How long can that go on? We are literally crowding out nature because we are busy doing the wrong things, and we're consuming twice as much as we did a generation ago, and that's made us twice as happy, right? Wrong. We're not happier. We're more and more miserable, more and more isolated. We need to rethink everything.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I really appreciate your time, Hart. Thank you so much for taking the time off to do this. I think the subject is really important, and as you said, it's just not discussed enough. So I
Mhm.
really appreciate you bringing that forward and sharing that with us.
Mm.
It's yeah, way more vital than carbon. We will not die if carbon's floating around, but we will die if there's no water.
Can I offer people some things before we go?
Absolutely, please do.
So harthagan.net, HARTHAGAN.net is my website, and it has the latest free webinars. So you can sign up for my free webinars. When you sign up for a free webinar, you can check a box that says add me to the Climate Cafe. The Climate Cafe is a Google group. It's just an email group where we discuss these things. And anyway, if you're interested in this content, then the way to follow me is go to harthagen.net and sign up for my free webinars.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Hart.
Okay,
Really
thank
appreciate
you. Well, you
it.
all have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.